What's up, guys? It's your boy Zawoki back out with another Chris Watts video. And today's video is the NK text messages, paperwork, phone calls, whatever have you, that NK was sending to Dave Baumhover. Pretty much the man that brought this case to where it needed to be. I think this was a good cop in this case. Pretty much we attempted to have blank 4 times that evening. He seemed mentally interested, but then we're going to watch this. It's from a YouTube channel called I Swear Kimberly. If you guys have not watched her channel, I suggest you highly go over there and enjoy some good content. I've been watching quite a bit of her stuff that's not Chris Watts and so forth, but you should go over there and check her out. But before we go any further, make sure you guys are subscribed to my YouTube channel by hitting that white bar icon down at the bottom right. Hit the bell icon next to it, so when I do post videos like this one, you guys will get that little ring notification that I posted that video, and then you guys can watch, comment, like, and share. And again, I thank you guys also very much. We're trying to get to 100K, so if you tell your friends and your family or anybody you guys know, and then go over to I Swear Kimberly, give her some love, and do the thing. You guys know what to do. And without further ado, let's get into the videos of NK talking to Dave Baumhover. After pretty much the other guy got, I wouldn't say let go, but got taken off the case. I wonder why.
Hi, this is Kimberly. Today I'm presenting to you one of the reports written by Detective Dave Baumhover. He just does a quick summary of meeting with Nichol Kessinger and notes taking over as her point of contact.
I would really like to see that in person, you know?
For any future dealings related to the case.
So we got, what does it say? Trying to read this a little bit better. So victim, witness, complainant, Nichol Lee Kessinger, witness. This is where I think the witness whole came into witness protection. Like, she's not a witness. What did she witness? She didn't witness nothing.
Christopher Watts annihilating his family. Then I'll read to you the typed out report that Nichol gave to Detective.
This is showing that she was in North Glen, not Aurora. Very interesting. Okay, hold on. I want to try something. Okay, so I wanted to redo this because so here is 28 to 25 Saratoga Trail, which that's where the Watts were. You guys can see right here, this is 2825 Saratoga Trail. This is where he would have had to go down to North Glen, Colorado. Okay. We don't know exactly. Well, I don't remember where she was originally, but I know where she is now, but I'm not going to release that. I don't want any harm to come to her. I just want her to be interrogated. So if we look at the one over here, though, 2825 Saratoga Trail, it's not on the way to work. So this up here on the top right is where Anadarko HQ used to be. And down here is where North Glen, in this vicinity where NK would have had to have left. So if she left North Glen, she would have taken I-35 all the way to work. She wouldn't have taken 25 that went into 20 or 52, but that was opposite of 2825 Saratoga Trail. Chris would have taken 52 to work, 52 onto 85. Nichol would have taken down here, wherever she was at, to 85, all the way up to work. Again, she would have never gone this way because she always said she took I-30 or I-85. That's where she said she took. I can't remember which interview it is, but she says, I always take I-30 or I keep wanting to say I-30 because it's in our area, but I-85 to work. But then why did Chris say, let's get out of here. Let's get away. Let's go to Brighton. Brighton's down here. Brighton's on the way from North Glen to Brighton to Anadarko. It doesn't make sense. Brighton to Anadarko, North Glen, where she was at, to Anadarko. This shows right here. She would have never gone to this way. I mean, it's 31 miles extra, but 37 minutes compared to 27 minutes is 40 minutes. I'm guessing it's probably depending on the day, so you don't get stuck in traffic. But it's shorter distance by 3 to 4 miles going on I-85 than to 2825 Saratoga Trail from 25 to 52 to 85. And she even said she took I-85. So when her phone pinged in Frederick, Colorado in the morning, there's no reason why. It shows right here. I'm telling you, there's a reason why she was in that area. And it wasn't because she was driving that way. But then we found out yesterday that somebody has a silver truck with a white topper passing the Chris Watts house at 1:15 to 2:10. It's all like slowly coming together. We just need to find the pieces that fit. Okay. That was North Glen, Colorado. Oh, it just makes me so angry.
She had promised Agent Kovac that she would go home and write down anything else that she could recall. The reason I'm doing this is because...
So notes received from N.K. Kessinger on 5/18. So almost a month later. And this is in the Discovery.
In critiquing the Letters from Christopher book by Sherilyn Cadle, I finally realized in chapter 22 or 23 that the quote-unquote author had used the summary submitted by Nicolai throughout her book, most specifically in chapters 6 and 23. Chapter 23, Reflections from Christopher, begins by the author saying, "Following are the reflections Christopher shared with me through informal conversations." And while I can't say for sure that Mrs. Scribbles did not get this information through quote-unquote informal conversations, it sounds questionably similar.
I hate how he says this. How does a person sum up his life in a few paragraphs? I'm only 34 years old and I just, like my family, my life stopped at this age. I took my own life. I lost my family, my house, my job, my friends, everything that meant everything to me. You did it. It's not like they died in a house fire. The way that this man writes. I know now Shanann and I were not meant for each other. I'm afraid if I tell you my thoughts, you might feel I'm blaming Shanann for what happened. But I'm not at all. We're just two completely different people, each with our own views and personalities. Most opposite attract and do well. You sought after her, dude. This wasn't the case with us. When I really think about it, I wasn't true to myself when I first met her. Shanann was so beautiful. I remember I just couldn't relax and be myself around her. She was confident and real presence. I am quiet and I like the background. Wow.
To Hickey's written summary, handed over to Detective Dave Baumhover. This also resembles many parts of the book where she quotes Nicolai, and I'm pretty sure they did not talk to one another. And of course she can quote Nicolai since she said that in her statement, but I feel like she led the reader to believe that this is what Fuckface told the author, the scribe, or she talked to Nicolai, which of course she didn't.
This is why I like this woman. She has no filter.
The readers be misled throughout the book. Now, in Scribbles doing this, naturally, this pisses me the fuck off, as I'm sure many of you feel betrayed and snowed by the so-called author as well. No, she's not an author. She's a scribe, a scribbler, in my opinion, and it's all alleged and for entertainment purposes only, etc., etc., yada yada. Mrs. Scribbles is one who writes or draws something hastily, carelessly, or hurriedly. That is what scribbling is. She did all of those in producing Letters from Christopher. I don't know if it's supposed to be a book or a pamphlet or what, but everything about this book is wrong. It's erroneous and inaccurate. This was professed to be a true crime book. It would be different if she had labeled this as a novel, loosely based on a true account. That's what she should have done, and I wouldn't have been bitching. But
Oh,
she didn't. She misled us. Just as Dieter purportedly led Sticky up the stairs to accidentally check out the rest of the house and all of the photos and stuff, hanging in the halls and the stairwell and all that. Now,
did she call NK Mrs. Sticky? What?
did Fuckface tell Scribbles all of this? Well, we don't
I apologize. I didn't know there was that much in here, so please be aware that there are bad words.
know. We don't know a lot of shit. We can't believe a word that comes out of their disingenuous and deceitful, gnarled, and mangled mouths. In closing, I am glad this book has ultimately been pulled from the shelves for plagiarism of Ann Howard, a real true crime author.
It has?
Scribbles did put out a revised version called The Murders of Christopher Watts that came out several months ago, and I've not looked at this, but I hear she failed to take all of my painstaking editing advice when I originally dissected her book, pamphlet, whatever. So I will now carry on with today's dramatic reading. Please enjoy. Much love and
It's not even the kids. When did this come out? 3 years ago?
peace, and thank you so much for listening. I'm going to start Discovery page 1058 from Detective Baumhover. He handwrote on this notes received from N. Kessinger on 9/4/18, and then he initialed it DB. And before I go on, I just wanted to say, when I was reading this discovery, it had initials CW for, of course, Chris Watts and SW for Shanann Watts. And I said their names instead of the initials, and for whatever reason, I was calling Shanann Shannon, so please forgive me of that. Thank you. On 9/4/18 at approximately 1300 hours, I met with Nichol Kessinger at the CBI headquarters.
1 o'clock.
Located at 690 Kipling Street, Lakewood, Colorado. I was introduced by CBI Special Agent Kobach, who had interviewed her several times previous to my introduction. I advised Nichol that I am now her point of contact regarding this case and that Special Agent Kobach would attend other cases he was assigned to at the CBI. Nichol acknowledged that
I feel like Kobach got too close to NK because they were texting at like middle of the night.
information and presented me with a 7-page typed document she generated containing notes of events she had recalled since her last meeting with Special Agent Kobach. The events documented reportedly occurred between 6:25.
If you're not interested, you can just let me know. It's possible that I may be interpreting wrong, but we talked about ghosting and we both shared our feelings. Interpreting wrong, but we talked about ghosting and we were both sharing our feelings on it. So just to know, if you're not interested, just be really busy or whatever it may be, I'd appreciate it. Sorry, it's been busy. I do kind of have a few obligations right now, but we can hang out sometime after I get back after the 4th. That works. I'll be in Denver until the 2nd or 3rd. I thought you might be busy with your kids and family stuff. So I tried not to be too dickish with my text. I hope it didn't come across that way. Hopefully we can do dinner or a movie. What the So the green ones are NK. The white one is him. This right here. I thought you might be busy with your kids and family stuff. She will not say Shanann, so I try to not be too dickish.
18 through 8/13/18. I advised Nichol I would review the notes she provided me, along with the reports and recordings from all the previous interviews, and contact her with any follow-up questions I may have.
I haven't seen these text messages right here.
Nichol acknowledged my statement, and our meeting ended shortly thereafter. Special Agent,
if you're not interested, you can just let me know. It's possible that I may be interpreting wrong, but we talked about ghosting. What?
Kobach agreed to complete a follow-up interview with Nichol's friend and provide me the reports. While at the CBI headquarters, I took custody of Nichol's cell phone and iPhone 6, which she had previously surrendered to Special Agent Kobach. I placed the cell phone into evidence and entered the CBI chain of custody form into the case file. Nothing further. This is now Discovery page 1059 approximately 6:25 or 6:26, 2018, in person. These are Nichol Kessinger's notes that she gave to Detective Baumhover. Asked Chris Watts when he and Shannon Watts had decided to separate. He told me late March, early April 2018. I asked him if he still lived with her, and he told me yes. Said that when she was home, he slept in a different room, and when she was gone, he would occasionally sleep in the master bedroom, but not frequently because the bed was uncomfortable. I asked why he had decided to separate from Shannon Watts. Chris Watts told me she was bossy. I asked him what he meant by bossy. Chris Watts responded that she was controlling. Said they really don't argue much, though. Said that once many years ago he attempted to stand his ground with her, and she told him get out of my house and made him leave for a night. Chris Watts said he tried to avoid arguments ever since then. Said that now if him and Shannon Watts disagreed, she would make nasty comments to him, and he would just ignore them. I
Oh,
asked
poor
if she talked
baby.
like that in front of the kids. He said yes, my kids started to repeat her words, and that is why I wanted the separation. Asked him what he said to his kids when they repeated Shannon Watts' words. Chris Watts said he would tell his children that it was not nice to say that to anybody. I asked Chris Watts if Shannon Watts was bossy in front of his friends. Chris Watts said that Shannon Watts was all about appearances, all aspects of her life, and that in front of her friends she was occasionally bossy, but she would turn it into kind of a joke so that it was more discreet. I asked him how long the communication breakdown between them had been going on. Chris Watts said 6 years, and that the last year or two was the worst. I asked him if he had tried to communicate to her how it made him feel when she said mean comments to him. He said he tried to talk to her many times, but it fell on deaf ears. I asked Chris Watts if they had attempted to go to counseling to fix their problems. Chris Watts said no. Chris Watts then said
Chris Watts denied the counseling.
that some nights he would still currently hang out next to the bed in the master bedroom with her and would try to talk with her or spend time with her till she fell asleep. Chris Watts tells me that the other reason he was separated is because Shannon Watts hated that he liked to work out and eat healthy. Said that before they decided to separate, Shannon Watts would get mad at him if he tried to go for a run at night once the kids were in bed. Said that Shannon Watts felt it took time away from the time they should be spending together. Chris Watts said that it was frustrating because when he would try to hang out with her, she didn't pay attention to him and would talk on the phone and scroll through social media instead. Chris Watts said that many times
Even if that were the case, that does not give you the right to annihilate your entire family.
he would try to talk to Shannon Watts, and she would not acknowledge him, and his dad would reply with, "Were you talking to me? Because I wasn't listening to you." Chris Watts told me that Shannon Watts had asked him numerous times to take pictures of them pretending to run together so she could post it on social media, but she wouldn't actually go for a run with him. Discovery page 1060. Said he started waking up early to lift weights because it was something he did every day, and he didn't want his routine to interfere with his time with his kiddos. Said his health was important to him and he wished that he could have been supportive and not upset. Approximately 6/27, 2018, in person. Chris Watts brings condoms to my house. One box is full and unopened. The second is a set of condoms from a partially used box. I ask Chris Watts why he has a set partially used condoms. Chris Watts informs me that the condoms he has are from back when.
Why does this part even matter? Why are we talking about condoms? And then she gets pissed about the condoms because he knows or she knows that he was using them with Shanann.
When he was still having sex with his wife. Told me they had been sitting in a closet collecting dust and that Shannon Watts probably did not even know they were still there. Asked why him and Shannon Watts used to use condoms. Chris Watts informed me that Shannon Watts did not like to get messy. I was curious, so I looked up the expiration date on the condoms and noted that the unopened set expired in late 2022 and the unopened set expired in early 2023. I looked up the lifespan of an unopened condom and discovered it is approximately 5 years. Based on my research, I assume these condoms were manufactured in late 2017 and early 2018. Shortly after July 4, 2018, in person. I complimented his home as being very beautiful. Chris Watts said he had always wanted a smaller ranch-style home. Chris Watts said that Shannon Watts insisted on the big house because she liked to throw parties and make it look like they had everything. I asked him what type parties he was referring to. Chris Watts shook his head left to right and said, just expensive parties. Chris Watts then tells me that they had the house built, and the only part of the design that he had any say in was the stonework and the paint color on the exterior of the house. Chris Watts said his mortgage was $2,800 a month, and he was tired of being house broke. I asked why it was so expensive. Chris Watts said that about $500 of the $2,800 was homeowner's insurance. 7/14/2018, in person. Discovery page 1061. Went to his house to drop him off after we visited the Shelby Mustang Museum, Boulder. While at his house, I felt uncomfortable, as if I did not belong there.
You
He had
didn't.
built a beautiful life, and it made me think there was still a chance for him to fix things with his wife. I told him I did not think it was fair to Shannon Watts or to me that he was trying to live two lives by being in a relationship with both of us at the same time.
Distancing
Said that I
herself
think he either
again.
needed to fix things with her and let me go, or he needed to move towards trying to finalize his divorce. I told him I thought his problems with Shannon Watts were fixable, and that he should focus on trying to rekindle the relationship that they had before giving up.
While sending dirty pictures to him.
He said that Shannon Watts was set on separating, and so was he. He said that when Shannon Watts wants something, she gets her way. I told him I did not understand why they hadn't completed the divorce after all these months, if they were both so adamant about it. If she wanted it as bad as he stated, I did not understand why it seemed stagnant. At this moment, I realized he might be lying to me about his separation, so I started quizzing him on things he had told me earlier. Asked him when was the last time he was intimate with his wife. Chris Watts told me that day that the last time he and Shannon Watts had sex was in May, but he told me on an earlier date that the two had not been intimate since March or early April. I asked Chris Watts if he used protection when he slept with her, because he stated on an earlier date that he used condoms when they had sex. He told me that he had not used protection. I asked him if
Again, why does Baumhover need to know all this?
he was lying about his separation. Chris Watts said no. I asked him if he was actively trying to have a child with Shannon Watts since they had unprotected sex. He said no. I left his house. Approximately July 15th through July 19th, 2018, continued from the above conversation, text and in person. He tells me that he still wants a separation, but this time he states it is because he never met anyone like me. Told him that he better not be doing this for me and that he needs to be leaving his current situation because it is what he and her both felt is best for their kids and for themselves. We spoke over the next several days and spent a little time together, but I did not want to be intimate with him. I kept telling him that I thought he really needed to fix things with her and not to worry about building a relationship with me anymore. Told him that I had been asked out on 2 dates since I had known him and that I didn't go on either one, that I was stood up. Told him that he took the respect and trust from our relationship because I felt like he was lying. Discovery page 1062, in person. We attempted to have sex 4 times that evening, and he seems mentally interested but physically cannot perform. I
Again,
asked him what the problem
why does Baumhover need to know this?
was several times, and he kept telling me that nothing was wrong. I told him he was quiet that day, and it seemed like he had something on his mind. I asked him what was bothering him had to do with the convo that occurred the previous weekend. Chris Watts said yes, told me that he initially was mad that I had been asked out on dates, but then felt like he couldn't be mad because that would make him a hypocrite.
Right?
Said what was really bothering him was that I kept asking him to try and fix things with Shannon Watts. Chris Watts told me that
He liked to have both worlds.
he would attempt to fix things with her when he was in North Carolina and that he didn't want to talk about it anymore while he was home. The sex from then on for the rest of the relationship was greatly reduced from 3 to 4 times daily to once or maybe 2 times, and it was not as intimate when it occurred. Sex no longer happened every day we hung out, but it was still very frequent. Conversation while Chris Watts was in North Carolina. Phone.
Sounds like that's what she wanted to talk about.
Chris Watts tells me he had a conversation with his buddy Mark, who lives in San Diego. Says Mark informed him that many years ago he believes Shannon Watts was responsible for a large amount of money that was embezzled from a company that Shannon Watts and Mark both worked for at the time, but that the company was never able to prove who did it. Wednesday, August 8th, 2018, in person. Chris Watts stops by the Frederick, Colorado Toyota dealership to pick up an order of touch-up paint and windshield wipers for my vehicle after he gets off work. I pre-ordered the paint several weeks earlier. He brings them to my house sometime between 3 and 4:30 p.m. that day. Saturday, August 11th, 2018, in person. Chris Watts told me he didn't have any extra money for a deposit on an apartment. I told him that apartments nowadays were so expensive for rent that the damage deposits have to be fairly cheap because otherwise people can't afford the move-in costs. He said that every time he got paid, he just watched his bank account dwindle down. He said he wished he had a way to prevent his disposable income from being spent. Discovery page 1063. I told him that it's possible to divide paychecks into multiple bank accounts, but that if he considered doing that, he would need to make sure he was responsible and that his mortgage and kids and his standard monthly bills were covered first. I told him that if Shannon Watts ever wanted child support, he would still be required by law to show proof of that income, even if it was in a second account. I suggested that if he decided to do that, perhaps just contribute a small amount that wouldn't impact his current living situation, but would give him a cushion for the first month's bills when he transitioned to an apartment. But that was his discretion. Monday, August 13th, 2018, continued from above conversation. Text or phone. Suggested the bank account idea again after he told me that he thought Shannon Watts was gone for the night at a friend's house. Asked him if any money was missing from their bank account. Chris Watts said no. Tuesday, August 14th, 2018, continued from above conversation. Text. Chris Watts told me he opened up a second bank account so he could start saving for an apartment. Monday, August 13th, 2018, text.
I would have verified that. I would have went to the bank that he went to see if he opened up a bank account. Let's see if she's telling the truth.
Chris Watts informs me his family is gone and asked me to call him when I have a chance. When I called Chris Watts, he informed me that the cops were at his house and that he would need to call me back. I was unaware that his wife had missed a doctor's appointment, or that his kids had missed school that day, or that her friend had tried to contact her and couldn't, or that he had tried to call her and didn't get a response, or that her friend had stopped by the house hours earlier to check on her. I asked him why the cops were there. Chris Watts says that the media are arriving. I was confused and asked him why they were there. Chris Watts tells me that Nichol called the media. I asked Chris Watts why he believed Nichol would call the cops and the media. He said Nichol wasn't being very nice to him. He told me that she was sitting in her car on the phone with Shannon Watts' mom. Asked how Nichol knew Shannon Watts' mom. Chris Watts informed me Nichol used to work with Shannon Watts' mom. I asked if he thought maybe Nichol was the friend that was helping Shannon Watts to get away for a day. Chris Watts says no, why would Nichol be helping Shannon Watts if she is the one who called the cops? I suggested maybe it was to throw him off the trail. He did not agree. Chris Watts asked me if he should talk to the media. I initially told him no, and then suggested if he decided to speak to them, that maybe he could ask Shannon Watts to bring his kids back. Was uncomfortable with him asking for my advice on the media, so I then asked him what his friends thought he should do about the media. Chris Watts says that his friends believed that it would look bad if he didn't speak to the news, and thought he should make a statement. Phone. I asked Chris Watts if the cops had attempted to search his friends' houses, since he believed that Shannon Watts had gone to stay with a friend. He told me no, they hadn't. I asked him why not, and he told me he didn't know why they hadn't. I asked him why Nichol did not like him. He said he wasn't sure. I asked Chris Watts if Nichol was married, and how well he knew Nichol and her husband. He informed me that he didn't know her husband hardly at all. I again suggested that maybe Nichol was the one who may be helping Shanann Watts to hide out from him for a while. Chris Watts said maybe, but he really didn't seem like he was entertaining the idea.
No.
Asked him if he thought she was with another man. Chris Watts said it was possible, but he did not think so. I asked if he thought his family was in danger. Chris Watts said, quote, if my kids are with her, then they are safe, unquote. Never said he was worried or concerned about his family unless I prompted the question. Looking back on everything, I'm so glad that Nichol showed up that day to check on her friend. Monday, August 13th, 2018, phone. Chris Watts says his home camera shows him leaving for work at 5:15 like usual that morning. Chris Watts tells me his home alarm system notified him.
Wait.
Shows him leaving for work at 5:15 like usual that morning.
His camera?
August 13th, 2018, phone. Chris Watts says his home camera shows him leaving for work at 5:15 like usual.
His home camera, like on the front doorbell? Because we've never seen that footage.
Usual that morning. Chris Watts tells me his home alarm system notified him at 9:10 his garage door opened, but that he never received a notification on his phone that it closed again. I asked him if his garage was open when he got home from work that day, and he told me no. I asked Chris Watts if he thought that Shanann Watts left out the garage at 9:10 that morning. He suggested that she either left out the garage door or the back door because there is no footage of her leaving from his front door camera.
I'm just hypothetically thinking, what if the 9 and 10 garage door that was being opened or closed at that time, was that in a ruse to make it look like that's when Shanann left? Somebody was messing with the door or opened the door purposely to make it seem like Shanann had left?
But
it was somebody else?
If there was any sign of forced entry, and he told me no. Discovery page 1065. Told me he didn't want to keep talking about that subject and asked me to talk about something else. And that's the end of that report.
Because he wanted to worry about his new life that he had with NK. But that text message in the beginning proves that she knew that they were married and they were together. And she's like, are you interested? If you're not, I understand. So she's just, it literally shows it right there. And then they're like, oh, you guys need to stop behind your keyboards and stuff because this is just like annoying that you guys are trying to go after NK. It shows she lied. I don't know what more we have to say. I know we've seen these letters that were sent from NK to Baumhover, but the messages that text message that we just saw there, that's another piece to show that NK knew about the children, the family that he still had together. She's asking him, are you still interested? Are you sure about this? Because she wanted him. It just makes me mad that you can see it right here and then they just don't want to do anything with it. So, I don't know. Let me know you guys' thoughts on this information between NK to Baumhover. I definitely think that Kobach was relieved of his duty because he was getting too close with NK. The text messages, that just raises more red flags and so forth. It's just, and then the whole page, all the pages that she had to give to him, none of it helped. None of it. For those people that think she's not involved, tell me one thing and that those pages that she had that actually helped in the case. I will wait and see your guys' comments below. Again, thank you guys for being here. Please take care, be safe. As always, keep nerding on, and we will see you guys in the next video. Peace.